I tell you what, the women start blowing on that chicken's ass. It is awesome.
Welcome, race fans. Episode 14, Watermelons and Woodchips, presented by Central Iowa Diesel Performance. Little change of venue. We got Josh Reynolds to my right, Jonathan Logue, and Mr. Five-time John Logue. And guys, thank you for letting us squat on your territory a little bit. We came to the Bobcat Den, a little change of scenery today. It's pretty cool, Jonathan.
Well, when you're an only child, you get spoiled a little bit. My dad's only child. You guys know I have a sister. But Dad blessed us with this the state-of-the-art race car shop here. Always had a lot of nice things growing up and a lot of great people that helped our programs over the years. And Dad and Steph, this is a beautiful shop that they let us wrench on, not just my race car, but Matt Avila as well. And any racers that really come around, anybody that's traveling through or especially super nationals and even just coming down for, the Harris Clash or any of that kind of stuff. We invite anybody to come here and work on their stuff.
Well, and I've seen some late models out here before when we had the World of Outlaw late model deal. We had a couple different late model guys out here at the shop. It was pretty cool to see that and hang out with those guys.
Them guys are savage. And just to see how they kind of do their program, coming here, a lot of new faces. Kyle Strickler, been a long time friend of the Logue family, and so when he's around, we call him my dumb older brother. He comes in here and fucks the shop up, and but it's always fun to have those guys around just to kind of see what kind of stuff they're doing. They do things a little bit different, and those are big boy cars. So when they fire them up, it's like, you get the chilies in the shop and the big motors and stuff like that. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and with that being said, John, I know you've been. It's taken us 14 weeks to get you to talk into coming on the show, but Jonathan's like, hey, I got him fixed up on his phone so he can be subscribed and see all of it. So we appreciate you joining us today. And
absolutely, love being here, love being part of it, love watching you guys do this. We were talking earlier that this gets people interacted with the racers and what's going on at the Boone Speedway and drivers and stuff like that. And that's pretty cool because that's what, people want to hear that stuff,
One more guy ahead of Jerry Van Sickle. I wanted to go ahead and note that. It's a thing. We got to do it every time, right?
I think so. And he hasn't been on the show, but he has.
But he has. He's been on about every show.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He's gotten a mention every time.
Right. He gets involved. He gets interactive.
Very. Very. Yep.
Well, obviously this stuff takes time, right? And you've amassed a good following and spent a lot of time, obviously working on cars, building race cars, owning race car businesses. Kind of take us back to where did John Logue get started? I know Jonathan talked earlier in one of our other episodes that you and Erg kind of got a car put together, and now it's turned into this.
Yeah, I grew up around Boone Speedway when I was younger. My dad worked at Culligan Water Condition, and Boyd Brown worked there. He raced at Boone, and Donna Post, which is Donna F. Camp, Ron F. Camp's sister, and she worked there, and she had a car that Sam Post drove. So I was just a kid running around. I used to go to work with my dad when I wasn't in school, so I was around those guys all the time, and I was like, God, I'd go out and watch them, and then when I finally got old enough, my mom and dad said, we're not paying for nothing because this is a hobby. It's for fun, and we had one little stall garage at my mom's, and we drug a car out of the junkyard because I was working for Lemdahl Salvage, and Donnie, Erg's dad, says, I got a car out there, if you want to take that and knock the windows out of it. And we knocked the windows out and put a roll cage in that one little stall garage and went to Boone Speedway to see what it was all about.
Oh, that's awesome. What
is that, Dad? Now, we talked about the girlfriend on the left front fender, Katie.
There's a picture. There's a picture of it in this book. Yeah.
So that was the original first car. I told the guys, I'm like, I know bits and pieces of it. I said, but that's one of my favorite.
You weren't
pictures.
even born yet. This was 1986.
Yep, 86. There's Katie on the left front.
Well, we didn't have decals back then, and we really didn't have anybody that painted it. Once my second car came, we had a guy, Jay Lindahl, paint it for us, but that there, we just painted some black on there and took some duct tape and duct taped a number, and Katie was my girlfriend at the time, so. And then we painted orange over it.
So tell a little bit of that story with that book. You did that, right?
Yeah, I was always big into sponsors. When you get sponsors, it's hard to get people that want to spend money on you and help you out, blah, blah, blah. So we started doing it a long, long time ago to where we have a party at the end of the year. And we would reward all of our sponsors we do a book like this, just go back and give them something to look at and know what they did and how we got where we got, and to thank the sponsor for the year. And, and I'm still a big believer in it today with Jonathan. I say, you need to let your sponsors know every race that you race, how you did, everyone that's on the car. That makes them part of the program. And I've been very fortunate for over the years to have very good sponsors, and Jonathan's continued that on, and it's just giving the sponsors back something, and this here was kind of a deal we started years and years ago to where it just had all our stats in it, and people really loved it.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, and back then there wasn't cell phones, and stuff to where I feel like there's times where I'm really, really good about sending out a message. Usually when we're headed to the racetrack, hey guys, we're headed to Marshalltown Speedway tonight. If you can't make it, you can catch it on Flow or wherever we're going. Just that is one thing I do love about the TV. Is like my grandparents, stuff can't make it, but they can catch it right on IMCA TV. So, and the engagement that I get from my sponsors when I send those messages out, and I send messages out at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, well, we sucked and I ran over so-and-so, and we started 18th and had to come back and on to tomorrow, and I was just so surprised on how much they really enjoy that. Not that they tell me that, but I hear other people telling me like, oh yeah, like they really appreciate that. And I think that, a lot of the people that are in the industry, the racing industry, really don't get much credit when it comes to what they actually do for people's programs. So my dad kind of pounded that in my head, and this was how they did it back in the older days. And now we still have a race party every year. If you're a racer and you have these kind of sponsors and you're not doing a race party like this every year, in my opinion, shame on you. It's a good way to not only get your sponsors there, because it is for your sponsors. We give out gifts, and like this booklet here, something that they can take home, but we also have an auction to help raise a little bit of money. Not everybody or your fans, and here in the last few years at our race parties, our fans have showed up, and it gives them an opportunity to spend $100 or $50. There's stuff that goes for $10, and that is a way that, that's money that is helping your race program. So it's just a really good thing. So if you're not doing that out there, may look into that, because it kind of kicks off our sponsorship every year. I've had a lot of great people that have stuck it out with me for many, many years. My dad as well. A lot of the same sponsors for a 30-year career, and that's pretty much about unheard of nowadays.
Yeah, is Uncle Jeff for hire if they want to do an auction?
I doubt it. I doubt we'll get him, but it's kind of a deal to where we used to do it just with back in the day when we first started, just with the sponsors, and we'd have a Christmas dinner, and we didn't have the auction and stuff. Well, then we kind of opened it up with Jonathan and stuff, and towards the end of my career to letting anybody in, because there's people like there's people that don't want, they don't have a business. They don't want to sponsor a race car. They don't want to say, here, I'm going to give you X amount of dollars, whatever. But if they come here and if they can buy, and we try to get stuff that has things to do with racing. So if they can buy something like Jonathan says, $100, $200, and they're contributing to the race program, then they feel like they're part of the race program, and they don't want their name on the car, or they don't have a business. So this is a way that they can help out, and it's just fun for everybody. Everybody gets together. We have, food. We introduce every sponsor to everybody and who they are, what they are. Give them a plaque or something, so they get to get up in front of everybody and get recognized, and it makes them feel good, and then afterwards you have the auction, and it helps generate money for the race program. I know Devin Moran does a big party for his late model program. I've seen his online, so it's a great thing, and it's, everybody should do it, in my opinion, that has a race car. If not saying that you're trying to make money, but you're trying to keep your sponsors involved with it and keep them recognized and make them feel that you just don't want a check. I've sponsored people in the past, and I don't hear nothing from them all year long, and then come next season they already got my name on the car and didn't even ask me. I want to feel a part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's a good way, like you said, that even if it's a fan, they get something usually to take home, hang up in their garage or whatever, and then they got a story to tell, like, oh, we went to John's party, and
absolutely.
We played chicken shit bingo, and
Dad picked that up from one of the old timers, Bobby Greiner.
Down in Eldon, Iowa. The track was down there.
I don't think the track is it is at Eldon, ain't it? Mountain Dew Speedway? Yeah. They still race there to this day. We have this cool cage that Dad made, and we usually have Kevin or Ryan Hilsbeck bring in the chickens, and I tell you what, the women start blowing on that chicken's ass. It is awesome. I mean, it is. We have this table we put it up on, that we have all the stuff on, and it's one of the last things we do at the night, and it's $20 a square. The house gets 2 squares, and believe it or not, the house hasn't won. Like whatever we raise up, we split in half, and it's such a great thing. And you would think, a chicken shits like every 3 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. I swear, when we do that game, it's like 15 minutes, and there's just everybody piled around this table waiting for this chicken to shit. It's a good time.
Garrett, if you can cut the women start blowing on the chicken's ass, just into that all by itself, that should blow up pretty good.
It's funny. We usually go live on our Motorsports race page. If you've never seen it, definitely worth a watch. It's usually about minute 59 to 1010 or 110 or whatever. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Now, and I'm not trying to cut off of that, but so when we were talking about John's origins, so I've heard the story from quite a few different people. Now, you started up here at Boone, but you came down to my neck of the woods where I cut my teeth, and nobody could beat you down at Stuart.
Oh man, we used to go to Stuart on Sunday nights. I mean, it started back with the Chevelle. Mm-hmm. I only ran the hobby stock 1 year, and so the second year we built our own car again in that little garage, and I built the car completely myself, or not myself, but I mean, we didn't buy anything. Except for the tubing, and we bent it, and we built the motor. We had $1,500 in that car, race ready, and so we'd race Boone, and then every now and then we'd venture down to Stuart, and we got going down there, and we just started winning, and we just couldn't get beat down there. It's just, I think we got beat one time. We ran out of gas.
Oh.
And back then, I just had a little 5-gallon gas tank. I worked for a little small, where they build over in Almaco, they build little combines, and I got the gas tank from there, because I worked there, and well, we forgot to put fuel in it. Somebody did. We weren't sure, but anyway, we're leading the race, run out of gas, and we had this old guy that used to go racing with us. His name was Sweet Anderson, and he'd just go long, drink beer. He was in his 70s, and he'd have his legs crawled in the back of the dually. We had a dually, and so anyway, we're headed home. Everybody's mad at everybody. Nobody's really pointing fingers. I'm mad. The crew's mad. Sweet's back there drinking his beer, and he goes, "Tell you what, boys, You make piss poor airplane pilots. it broke the ice. And then we were all hooping and hollering and cussing each other. But it just took somebody like that to break the ice. But yeah, I love Stuart. I think was it the Davidsons that used to own that down there?
Kenny Davidson, yep.
And I tell you what, that's the first time that I was down there. I seen Bill Davis close up, and he had that yellow car, chrome front bumper, chrome Nerf bars on it. Axel Andries that owned it, and I just like, oh my God, I just want to get it. I want to get it modified so bad. I want to be that guy right there, because he was pretty much unbeatable. Well, him and Dave Farron, were pretty much unbeatable down there.
So that planted the seed.
That planted the seed. I was hooked, boy.
No
I tell you what.
That's awesome.
Well, and Schweed Anderson, okay, just a little info here, history on Schweed Anderson. He is the guy that built the concession stands at the Boone Speedway.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back when they started the Boone Speedway thing. So he was he had his own, Dad knows way more about it, but had his own brick deal. And
he was a block layer, and the concession stands that are still there in the grandstands and the pit area, he built them back in, I think the racetrack was built in 65, 66, because Interstate or Highway 30 went through in 65, and then they built the track. And Swede got, shares, because that's how everybody got paid. And he was a big sprint car guy, but he loved racing, and he'd go racing with us all the time, and he was a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of these pictures also, and like,
yeah, that's Stuart right there.
Yeah, right there. Yep.
That's Stuart. That car there, that was
a Gustin car, right?
89. I bought that car from Rick Gustin or Dick Gustin.
So I think that's the one my dad ended up with.
Yep.
After that.
Yep. He bought that from us. We only raced it halfway through the season, and I got claimed down at Stuart.
No.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And Davidsons were like, we don't know what to do. I said, well, it's real simple. This is my last night in it, because we got it modified, and we're going to start racing modifieds next week. So I'm not selling my motor. And they're like, oh, well, we've never had a claim down here. But I think we won every night, and it was like June, I think, is when we parked it, and when we parked it and got the modified out that year.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, because I was looking at this thing and I was like, man, that looks a lot like the car that Dad had. And then Dad goes, yeah, it was the car that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, I got it from John, because they raced it like half the year.
Yeah.
Or first part of the year, and then we ended up with it. So
that kicked off the modified racing.
That kicked off the modified racing, yes. And actually I built, I was working at Harris Auto Racing at that time. I got laid off at Almaco. Went to work for Bob up there in Story City, and it was actually just me and Kelly Shyrock and one other guy named Brian that did the aluminum work. Kelly built most of the late models, because we built more late models than modifieds back then, because modifieds were just starting to, really get popular.
Yeah, because they were, 10 years old at the time?
Yeah.
Pretty much?
Yeah. And so I built this car up there. Actually, I built it for Sammy Baugh. was the customer, and I built it up there, and he got it, and then they decided to put me in it. So, and I still have that car today out back. I never got rid of it. Robert Avery drove it for a little while. I sold it to him, and I said, "You ever sell that car? I want it back." So I do have that first modified and I actually built it and raced it, and we brought it out mid-season. And we ended up winning the track championship at Jefferson with it, over Bill Davis, my hero. And we almost won Super Nationals that year with that car. The first year in it, yeah. We were running third. I was right behind, second. I was right behind Tom Bartholomew. It was my rookie year, half a season in the car, and we didn't have brake adjusters. And anyway, 3 laps to go, Tom got in there and got in a rut, and he got sideways, and I got on the brakes, and I got on the brakes so hard it turned me sideways, turned me around. Oh. And I took off, and I was so upset. There was only 3 laps to go. What are you going to do? Go to the tail? Yeah, no. I just pulled off. Well, As I was pulling into my pit, Lottie's come over there on his 3-wheeler. He had 3-wheelers back then. And just screaming at me, why did you pull off? And I said, I was so upset. I mean, I was in tears. My crew was in tears. I mean, and he goes, the yellow wasn't for you. There was a wreck. There was a crash on the backstretch, and I didn't see it. This was down in turn.
Oh, no.
This was in turn 3 and 4. So when I got turned around, I just drove right straight off the track. I didn't even look over there. Mm-hmm. He goes, you got moving before the yellow come out. You would have got your spot back. Well, Kevin Pittman was running 3rd, and the next lap, white flag lap, Tom Bartholomew hooks the rut again, blows the right rear tire. Kevin wins the race.
Oh, man.
Like, you know,
oh, man.
It was one of them deals, you know, well, what do you do? You know, I'll never pull off a racetrack again, ever, until I'm told to, or I'll go to the tail.
We've been talking to 6-time at this point. Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
And we'll get there later, but you had that one taken, but you had a couple other ones that... And I won't say given, because I don't like that. Because you got to run the race, right? But definitely some things happened that made it interesting.
Well, and when I started the modified, you know, I wasn't very old, and I went in there and I'm racing against Bill Davis, national champion, I think at least maybe twice. I'm not sure, but Wayne Larson, a super national past champion before that, and I think he was a national champion, and Dave Farron. You had 3 national champions racing Boone Speedway on Saturday night, and you know, I was only 20 years old, which that was young back then. I mean, if you weren't in your 40s or late 30s, you had no business having a race car, because you had to build everything yourself. And everybody, you know, young guys weren't in there. And boy, when I came in there and I used to come through the pit, you know, they drop you off, you know, and go park the car. I used to put my head on backwards, and
when he had hair.
When I had hair, yeah. And I'd come in the pits, and, you know, I was on a mission. And my main goal was to earn those guys' respect, but yet, boy, did I want to beat them so bad, because they're the best of the best in the country. I mean, they won the national championship. You got 3 of them at Boone on Saturday night. It was tough, you know, and I right away we got to be friends with all of them. And old Bill Davis used to say, well, you walk in that track and it looks like you just got an attitude on with your head on backwards, and you're, you know, I was on a mission, you know, because I wanted to be the best of the best, and I was racing with them.
Do you think that like having the opportunity to race against those guys like that early in your career kind of helped shape, you know, your driving ability?
Absolutely. You know, and I mean, when you're faced with challenges like that in life, and anything you do in life, that's what's going to make you better. And when you're racing with people like that, especially those 3 guys, those guys raced each other with so much respect. And because they all built their own stuff, and they had their own money wrapped up in it. So, you know, everybody raced a little bit different than like what it is today. Today, you know, you got more grandpa and grandmas and mom and dads, and that stuff just wasn't heard of. And even back then, my parents didn't put no money in them racing. Never did. I mean, they went to the grandstands and watched, but they never, I was on my own, but I had a lot of help. I had, you know, Craig Jones, Tiny, built motors for us, you know, and Mark Smiley put money in the car, helped buy the car. And, you know, I think our first modified, we had 10 grand in it, race ready. Wow. Which was, you know, and that
a lot
was
of money back then.
That was a lot of money back then. And you know, and Harris Auto Racing had the best of the best cars. You know, you had Dirt Works, and I don't think Jet was maybe just getting started, but there wasn't very many manufacturers like you have today. So, but Harris was always the Class A act. You know, had the nicest equipment, and you had the best drivers in them too. You know, I mean, Dave Farron, he built his own cars, and he built them right out of his own garage. And I tell you what, he was one tough guy. And you know, and back then, you know, like Dave Farron and Bill Davis and those guys, they raced Friday night at Des Moines, Saturday night at Boone, Sunday night at Stuart, Wednesday night at Oskaloosa. And you never heard them guys bitch about having to work on the car. Right. I mean, they raced 3-4 nights a week. You know, and that's a lot of work. You know what it's like to race 1 or 2 nights a week now. You know.
Yeah. Well, and literally having their own business on the side, and, you know, building cars like Dave did,
or just going to work. Going to work. You know, getting off work.
You know, Bill Davis, he was a truck driver, and actually he drove truck with Jonathan's grandpa. They kind of team whatever they called it down there. But he did the same thing as Jonathan's grandpa did. And so he had a job. Axel Andresi had a job. Axel owned Bill's car at that time. Dave Farron had his own car. He worked for himself, building cars, and he built quite a few cars out of his garage. And he had just a small garage. It wasn't like a big shop or nothing. And Wayne Larson had a full-time body shop, you know. So, I mean, everybody's handling jobs and businesses and racing, still racing, you know, 4 nights a week they raced 4 nights a week every week.
Yeah.
You know.
We talk about this too all the time, Dad. It's like racing nowadays, there's no break. You know, like builders used to get basically a downtime where they could get caught up on building new cars, doing the repair stuff. So folks, what we're referring to is that racing used to start on Memorial Day.
Yep.
And race until Super Nationals in September.
Yep. So, and then it was over with.
Yep. Mm-hmm. You know, there was no other races. There wasn't
all year round.
Right.
I mean, it's...
So put that in perspective a little bit. Mm-hmm. These guys racing 4 nights a week, but also it was only for 4 months.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now you can race, you know, we talk about all the time too, how spoiled we are right here in Boone with how many tracks are within an hour, 2 hours that we can go and race at on just about any day. Sometimes during the season, you can race 10 days in a row.
Yep.
You know, at different venues.
I don't think Bill Davis or Wayne Larson could have enough motors to race year round now.
That's true.
That's right.
Now, Dave Farron, he got claimed once in a while. It was very rare because he'd burn your house down if you claimed his motor. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And when I started racing, I remember seeing Dave walk through the pits for the first time in Stuart. And the only thing I could think is he looked mean.
He did.
He did. I was like, man, you don't want to mess with that guy.
Always had a mile-long smoke going.
Yep.
Walking through the pits.
With his 3/4 mile long arms. That guy had the longest arms of anybody I've ever seen.
But he had an advantage because he built a lot of the guys' cars.
Yeah.
You know, so he knew where Bill Davis, you know, I mean, he had the shiny stuff and everybody thought he had all this money. You know, and not really, because it was just, you know, Bill and Axel Andresi just like the rest of us, and Dave or Wayne Larson, you know, he had that reputation of, you know, he's the money man too, you know. So, boy, they just pluck their motors left and right, and that's the only thing that I just like, I don't know if I want to get into this or not, you know, because I don't want to be that guy losing a motor every week. And it didn't take long, and we started losing motors every week.
How many did you lose?
I think 79 or something like that.
Wow.
79 motors to the claim. He's actually, we need to find the T-shirt because he had this. My dad used to be the king of shirts before Jimmy really picked up on Dad's T-shirt shit. Okay, he had this badass T-shirt that's. I'll have to when we do some things, I will get that out because it shows on there, you know, broke because of Lottie's pay is one of the comments on it.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
79 motors lost because of the claim. Like it was one of the first glow in the dark shirts to ever hit the racing world in our area.
I remember those.
Yeah.
I think my grandpa Tom wore that thing like every single day with the suspenders and had the glow in the dark shirt on.
Grandpa Tom was a John Logue fan. Yeah.
That's where I got this book. I went over to Grandma's house and she's like, hey, your grandpa had some of this stuff sitting around. You want it? I'm like, hell yeah, I do.
But I think Bill Davis and Wayne Larson were way over 100. I know they were. They were because they'd raced a lot longer than I had, and they. You know, but boy, it was brutal there for a while. I mean, I remember nights that, well, if you went to Des Moines, you're probably going to lose a motor. Mm-hmm. Or Marshalltown. And we'd go down there and we'd lose a motor. We'd come home, put another motor in, go out, blow it up in hot laps. Throw another motor in because, you know, we were building cheap motors because we knew we were going to lose them. And then blow one up and then go out and run second or third and not even win and lose another motor. Go home without a motor. It's like, and these guys now, they're like, we got to change motors.
Right. Right.
Well, now to put this into perspective a little bit too, folks, Dad and his racing crew were probably one of the first people in our area to have a big rig. Mm-hmm. Now, they built that rig. Everybody thought they bought it, but they built that rig. And when he's talking about changing these motors, in between, it was on a chain hoist on the back of the trailer in between races. Mm-hmm. Not go home, but we're pulling the motor out. You know, they could do it in 15 minutes at the racetrack because everybody just had their spot and their place.
Right. If everybody stayed out of our way and let us just do our thing, because we had everything on the other motor. So we had it down pat pretty good, and it happened quite often.
But now you don't. I mean, that's unheard of these days.
Yeah,
I mean,
you load up and go home.
Right.
I would too.
I mean, people blow the right front off, and they're loading up, going home.
Yep, had it
right.
off.
You know.
Yeah.
And I'll give him shit about him saying he's loading up and going home, because every time that I want to load up and go home when we have a bad night, it's like, oh God damn it, we're here already. Let's get and we get the thing fixed, and then we go out and we run good, and
You never give up.
Yep.
Yeah. Does he say, "Bud, we're racing"?
No.
That's Jonathan.
Yeah.
We went to a race down in Humboldt when he was in the sport mod, and it rained and it was terrible, and we probably should have went home, and he wanted to go home, and I said, no, we're not. We're here. We're racing. I don't care. I said, he said, well, we're in an E main or whatever. I said, I don't care. Let's start digging. And I tell you what, we I don't know how many B mains or E's or B's or whatever, but it was several of them. I mean, he got to the A main, and I tell you what, you talk about pumping a crew up.
Right.
Well, the other thing is, here's how pumped up they were. We had a caution. There was a red flag. My spindle arm gets ripped off the car. They bring my car in on the hook. Him and Sniffer and Ducky and Dad, they set the car down. They change a spindle in the hot pit area, and we go back out and tag the tail and run ninth.
Yeah.
We were cranked up for the entire 9-hour ride home.
You passed the cars.
It was awesome. Todd Staley actually made the comment.
Ripped the spoiler off every time he went out, too.
Every time. He goes, if you'd get rid of that IMCA car, or you wouldn't have to be an IMCA car, you keep putting that thing back on there. And we literally had time to throw a couple of rivets in it, put some fuel in. And, I mean, it was, Joe and Jake, they were down there with us. I mean, a lot of people left. Yeah. But it was, and at the end of the day, we're driving home. It's like one of these badass memories.
Well, now you talk about stuff like that. But,
right.
I mean, you just, I don't know. I was always, when I raced, no matter what the situations, what happened.
Thanks, Taylor.
We never gave up. We always kept digging and trying, and you just, especially after losing the Super Nationals on, one lap, you just it taught me right there that you never quit.
So I want to ask, before we go to our first break, I want to ask, of all those guys you raced against, and I guess you go through your whole career is fine, which one was your favorite one to go out and just go wheel to wheel for 20 laps?
Bill Davis.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he was clean, right?
He was clean, but we were just, he kind of took me under his wing. Bill was a great big guy, and he was just so good, and he just kind of took me under his wing, and he would just, you should have done this, or you should have done that, and he kind of taught me, because I really didn't have, like I said, my dad never went to the pits, not once. I was there by myself. I was making decisions on my own and making it happen. I mean, I had crew guys, but we're all young, into the modified class, so we didn't know what we were doing really, and Bill Davis just took the time of the day, always to come here, and he'd give me a little bit of advice each night, and we raced each other so clean, and so me and Dave, Dave Farron and Wayne, but those were my three, but Bill was probably a little more special to me.
That's awesome.
Who was your biggest nemesis? Who was somebody that you just, every time you're on the race, kind of like how Doug Smith and I are, we're just like magnets.
Your magnet.
Who was your magnet?
Rod Sharman.
I knew that was coming.
and me and Rod, we finally squashed it, but man, did we race each other hard, and we just both wanted to beat each other so bad, and we never, I think we only took each other out maybe a couple times, but boy, did we race each other hard, man.
Yeah.
It's, and you got to have that. Yeah, that's what makes racing. Like I told Rod one time at a party at the track, I said, me and you are just like Dale Earnhardt and Darrell Waltrip. We just can't get away from each other on the track. But, then we'd talk afterwards,
Drink beer.
I mean, not always, but sometimes. Rod was a good racer too, and he was at that end of the track and I was at this end of the track. And, he even had, I think his first car was a Harris car, and he even bought a couple cars from me, So, but then we get on the track and we just like glue, but
Yep, the Ghost and the Ghostbuster. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
you're going to have that, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack too. I mean, sometimes people forget that we're here to put a show on, guys.
100%.
It's not about, well, you touched me or you did that. It's racing. It's a contact sport. You're going to have it. If you literally take somebody out, yeah, you need to go down and apologize and whatever, but we're here to put a show on for the fans, and that's what gets the fans going, is rivals like that, Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon and, you and Doug, and, that's just part of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, let's take our first break, and then when we come back, we'll continue our conversations. I know Rod Sharman's not the only rival that you had through your racing career, so we'll get into that when we get back, but we'll send it off to Weir's Machine and Central Iowa Diesel Performance. You've been watching Watermelons and Woodchips.
When you go green, precision matters, and that's why you choose Weir's Machine. From suspension components, tools, and data technology, we've changed the game for race teams around the world. Our ultra-force load machines are revolutionizing how teams collect and analyze data, while our Circle Track app provides a data storage notebook, giving you the edge on every turn. We're not here to follow the pack, we're here to lead it. American-made, race-tested, Weir's Machine.
Central Iowa Diesel Performance is a full-service preventative maintenance and truck repair center in Ames, Iowa. While they specialize in high-performance applications, they can do fleet repair, engine maintenance, transmission repair, or things such as brakes and electrical. Anything diesel truck-related, Central Iowa Diesel Performance is your go-to shop. Check them out at www.centraliowadieselperformance.com.
Welcome back, race fans. Watermelons and Woodchips presented by Central Iowa Diesel Performance. And man, we've gotten some good stories just in the first segment here with John Logue and John getting back into, we kind of started talking about rivalry stuff. And, you talked about Rod Sharman, but there was other guys that you raced with quite a bit. The one that sticks out in my mind as a kid, it was always, the Johnny Sadoff crew, or the Johnny Sadoff fans and the John Logue fans, at Super Nationals. And, Johnny had won several national titles. You won several Super Nationals titles, over those years. But kind of take us through that. That was always something that I remember as a kid, because Jonathan and I were sitting, we were 8, 9, 10 years old in the stands, and we got to experience a lot of that, the fan side of it when we were little.
Yeah, I mean, Johnny, he was a late model racer, and then he went to the modified deal and then started building his own cars and stuff and making a career out of it. And Johnny was tough over there. I mean, Johnny raced, weekly all the time, and we didn't really, after a couple years of Boone of weekly racing, we kind of started adventuring out. We ran some late model stuff. We ran some, we didn't run much big mod shows, but we tried to start just hitting mod shows all over. So we didn't do much weekly racing, never went after a national championship. I kind of always wanted to, but we just never did it because we like traveling. We built that rig, back in the 90s, and like we were talking on break there, Rod, the dirt track doctor, and Bob Ross built the inside of both of our rigs when we started. We bought them as a shell. We bought the truck, and which had 500,000 miles on it, and built the box on it. And we built them things ourselves because we wanted to travel and do more stuff like that. So anyway, and so I never really ran for it. And then one time at Super Nationals, Johnny, we were talking in a group, and he's like, Johnny told me, he'd never won the Super Nationals, and Johnny wanted that bad, and Johnny was smart enough to me. He goes, well, I've got five IMCA national championships. And I said, well, there's a big difference, Johnny. He goes, what's that? And I said, well, I never ran for a national championship, but you've been here every year trying to win the Super Nationals, and you can't do it. That shut Johnny up right now. And I think he turned around and left the party. When you come to Super Nationals back in the day, it's still tough today. Don't get me wrong. It's very tough, especially with the cars are so close with the motors and the suspension and all this. But, back when I was winning the Super Nationals, we'd won 5 out of 7 years. And I tell you what, in 01, they had the biggest car count there. I think it was 400 and some cars.
428 mods.
For 33 spots. And that was the year that we got rained out on Friday night. We got lucky with the draw or with the point system, and trust me, they had to make sure that it was right that we got in on 33rd. But, back then, we didn't have sport mods, and I don't think we even had stock car or hobby stocks, the Super Nationals.
They had just gotten 98 was the first year of hobbies.
So,
young.
When Super Nationals came to Boone, I think it was 88 was when, I ran my first year in a stock car. And, it wasn't that, and boy, did it just exploded. Once they decided, IMCA decided, and Lottie decided to keep it in one spot, it just went crazy. And by the mid-90s, we were 3 to 4, we had always around, 40 heat races, in the modifieds, so it was tough. And, and you had a lot of good racers. You had Mark Noble, and about anybody that had anything to do with IMCA throughout the United States that was good was here for the Super Nationals. And, it's tough. It's still tough today. It's very tough, even with, I think, 250, 260 cars, but now they got more classes, and it's 1,200 cars. Who'd ever thought?
Yeah.
It's just, IMCA has done such a great job with it. The Boone Speedway, now the TV, with the IMCA TV has just made it grow and grow and grow. So but yeah, we always had our rivals, especially when they come to Boone, because, like David Murray and Johnny Sadoff and Mark Noble. Mark Noble is, I think, the only guy that he has 3 Super National wins, and Mark was always tough at Boone. And Mark used to pit beside me, and we were buddies. And I hadn't won one yet, and this was in the early '90s, and they won one. And I remember he had an old pro car, leaf spring car, and I can't remember his car owner or the car builder that built them, but he was sitting on the back of the trailer, and that guy had a smile from ear to ear after the race, because Mark had won it. I don't know if it was 93 or 92 or in there somewhere, but I just sit there and I looked at that, and I'm like, you know what? You don't know how bad I want that now. I want to be that guy that's winning this Super Nationals. And so, yeah, we had a lot of rivals, and we all wanted to beat each other. And then when we started winning it, everybody wanted to beat us. When I started, I wanted to beat Mark Noble because he was kind of the king of Boone Speedway at Super Nationals.
So tell us about that first one. Or Jonathan's got something.
I wanted to freshen up on this whole Mark Noble and how they were friends. I remember one time, Mark when he would come down and race, like they used to have the Dream Race at the Iowa State Fairgrounds at Des Moines. Well, my dad was very, very, very good at Des Moines.
He was
very good there. Well, I remember, I believe the Dream Race paid $5,000 to win, and Mark Noble was pitting in Dad's shop, working on his stuff, whatever, and everything. And he went to fire his race car up, and the carburetor backfired and singed. Remember all of his face hair and shit?
Yeah.
And goes down there, and there's a caution. Well, Mark stuffed Dad in the fence and went on to win the race. And
we were still friends.
Right. But still to this day, my dad has a picture of Mark's car that he wrote it was Merry Christmas or something and mailed it to my dad. But that was like one of the things, like, yeah, we were friends, but it was $5,000.
Yeah. Hey, $5,000 back then was a lot of money.
Oh, right.
You know, but Mark was the type of racer, you know, he's just raced you hard. I mean, really hard. And you had to earn it from him because he would give you an inch. And he didn't care how good of buddies you were. But you know what? That's what I like, that racing against with guys like that, because, you know, we went back the next week and we raced each other again and we were still friends. I mean, we didn't lose a friendship. I very, very rarely lost a friendship over racing because, you know what? I mean, we're out here to put on a show, for one. Back to that, you know, and we're also here to beat each other. And at the end of the day, you know, everybody makes mistakes and nobody's perfect. And if something happens, and you know what? That's my buddy Mark. I know he didn't do it on purpose. He was just racing me hard, and we got together, and I got the bad end of the stick. But later on, if the shoes was on the other foot, then it was the same way. We shook hands afterwards, drank beer, had fun. And we, you know, back then, you know, you stay at the racetrack till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning drinking beer.
Oh yeah.
Now everybody goes home because, oh gosh, you know, you don't want to be mad at somebody, or, you know, this person touched me, or, you know, it was just a different style of racing. You know.
Well, we kind of talked about it too, Dad. Like back in the day, you guys didn't really throw like bomb sliders like what you see today. Like we talked about it on the break, like Tom Barry's throwing sliders on 2 or 3 cars.
That's
in a corner. And sometimes he gives you a dirty Tom.
Yeah.
Sometimes he gives you a clean Tom.
Yeah.
You know, I've been on the short end of that stick, and that's what motivated me in my modified deal. Is he did that to me at Marshalltown one night, and I was pissed off, and I went up to him in Victory Lane, and he said, you know what, bud, if you can't frickin' handle it, go back to the sport mods.
There you go.
And I tell you what, it pissed me off. It did. It pissed me off. I went back I was hot about it, because it's like, you know, I looked at it at the time, and in the heat of the moment, Tom's the best racer out there. But
why is he doing this to me? Well, why should he give? He ain't gonna give nobody an inch.
Right. And I didn't understand that at that time, you know. But I tell you what, a short 2 weeks later, I won my first modified race against Tim Ward at Marshalltown Speedway, and it just made me realize, like, hey, bud, I'm your friend, but I will do whatever it takes to win this race.
Well, absolutely.
So that kind of sparked a little fire under my ass, you know. But at first, I was like, you know, stick it, Tom. You know. But back in the day, when we were talking about these sliders and stuff, we got all these old videos, you know, VHS videos and stuff, and you see him throw a slider, but it's nothing comparable to today. And so where I'm going with this, Dad, do you think, you know, when you got back into the car in 2016, 2017 there, you know, and raced a few years, you know, did you, I mean, Dad, you always were so confident in your race car and what you were doing. You know, did you think about that? Like, we asked Todd Shute, you know, like, he's like, well, I don't know. I never kind of threw sliders like that. You know, what was it like for you to you know, get back into the class after a few years?
Well, I mean, back in the day, you didn't do the sliders, but you did try to intimidate people. And from all sorts of areas. For one, new car, new look, new something. Just pulling up into the staging against somebody, you know, and they look over and you got this new looking car, different colors, and we'd always change up our colors. Or on the racetrack, you just come off the corner and you might want to push them out a little bit because they don't want to get their car touched, and you just had to take advantage of it. So you know, you could intimidate people and move them out of the way, or get in there and get real close to them, and then they, you know, thought you were going to hit them, and you know, sometimes you did, sometimes you didn't, but that's kind of how they did it. You know, we raced back in the day. I mean, people still intimidated each other. They just did it in a different way.
We talked about that about Steve Jackson, how he could muscle you or rub you or rough you up. Him and Larry Soball had some barn burner. I mean, but it didn't ever look like they were taking each other out, but they were rubbing.
Yeah. That's racing.
And that's racing.
You know, I mean, I remember when we used to follow the Mod Car series. We did that series, you know, I mean, it was like Mark Noble and
Tommy Meyer,
Ron Jones.
Yeah. Jason
Hughes, and then
Dogs.
then me and Joe McBurney from up here. We traveled together all the time, and we go to the races, and and we go down there and race in their area, and I mean, we're all beating on each other and stuff, and then after the races, we all get in our rigs and travel together, and we all park together, and you might be a little butt sore at the end of the night, but by the time you got to the next racetrack, it was over with, and we're on to the next race, and let's do it again. And if a hand falls in the other hand the next time, then I did it to him, he did it to me. This is just racing, unless you literally take somebody out, being stupid. But it was mainly just good rubbing and racing, and that's what puts on a show. That's why people came to watch.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, I want to get into, right, so when you started kind of having success, you guys built the rig, and like Bill Gunther was a big part of your guys' program, obviously, and kind of talk us into that, where you and Bill kind of got hooked up, and then it seemed like the 69, when you looked like a professional team at that point, right? Kind of moved forward from there.
Bill got his feet wet into with Brian F. Camp in the stock car days. Brian worked for Pat Clemens. He was a mechanic, and they got into the stock car stuff, and we were just into the stock car stuff, getting ready to move into the modified, and Bill had some trucks, semis that he had for a business, and obviously Pat was a Chevrolet dealership, and Brian worked there as a mechanic. So anyway, long story short, Brian and Bill and Pat kind of had a little bit of differences, and I'd lost a house. I had a house fire and lost everything, and I was just going to quit because I was couldn't afford it, had to rebuild and blah 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 blah. So they stepped in, and they're like, we'll help you out. So how it all got started was then Bill Gunther owned the truck, Pat owned the trailer. We owned the car together, and then I housed the cars at my shop. And then all the money that we made and all the sponsorship went back into a pool to help just keep the operation going. Mm-hmm. And we built the rig because we wanted to travel. And, back then, a nice dually pickup and an enclosed trailer, you're looking at, $70,000, $80,000. And I think we had 90 in that truck and trailer done. Mm-hmm. And we used it for 15 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a very good investment, and we got to travel a lot. We could take a lot of people, we'd take all the equipment. So it wasn't like we went out and just bought a brand new rig like they do today that, we built it from scratch, and that's how we all kind of got started. And then Bill had a heart attack, and I was working for Bill then. About 2 years into it, I started working for him as a truck mechanic, taking care of the over-the-road trucks. We had 15 over-the-road Freightliner trucks, and so that was my full-time job. And then Bill had a heart attack, and so he backed out of it because he's like, I'm just going to retire and blah, 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 And then so me and Pat kind of owned the car together, and we downsized. Because I said, I don't want to travel no more. I did it for 12, 14 years, and kind of wanted to settle down. And so we just got the truck and an enclosed trailer, and then Harris came along, with me and Pat involved with the Harris deal, and then so then I just started slowing down but yeah, back in the day it was nice, but we all kind of had our money pitched into it, everybody kind of just helped out, and that's what made it work.
Well, it just seemed like like I said, as a kid, Jonathan and I running around a lot and stuff, and you guys looked like the first professional team. Like you had the collared shirts and but I feel like that kind of opened the door to other people going, oh shit, we need to operate like these guys do.
Yeah. I'm just going to say this, Ron Roach, Dad's crew chief for all them years, was the hottest pit dude. He had the work short jeans on with the American brown tan working boot, tall socks, scrunched down, the mullet going on, had these fancy crew shirts. I still have these crew shirts in these jackets and stuff, and I can, I feel like that kind of started a thing where people started doing that, and you would you started seeing it more often. You started seeing some of them bigger rigs being built or being bought and brought to the racetrack, where Dad's rig was just a single car hauler.
Yeah.
You know, then they start coming out with the double stackers. And I'm going to go
Well,
ahead.
Wayne Larson had a nice rig. You know, I think he was one of the first ones with a Kodiak S&S built truck and trailer, and then Kelly Shyrock had one right after that, same thing, you know, and Kelly was starting to travel, and then Kelly, I think it was 98 or around late 90s, he bought that really nice one because he was doing all the USMTS stuff, and Kelly bought that thing and brought that out. It's like, holy cow. And we'd built ours in like 94, so it was a little bit older of a truck, but we used to travel a little bit with Kelly down some of the USMTS stuff, and Kelly still has that same truck today.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's, you know, talk about an investment of buying something like that. I know he's got a different trailer, but buying a truck like that and having it for this many years, you get your money's worth out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the way to travel. If you're going to travel, compared to, I mean, and, you know, today they're way, way much more money, but back then it wasn't much more than if you went out and bought a new, you know, dually, and then when you go to sell it, it's worth something.
Also speaks to taking care of something. I mean, he doesn't just walk around it and go, you know,
no,
that thing is not still around if he's not taking care of it.
Yeah, Kelly's still I know, I'm pretty sure it's still the same rig that he bought back then, the day of the S&S, you know, and it's an investment. It's, you know, and a lot of people give us a hard time back in the day. Oh, well, the bad thing about it had claimed me on the side of the trailer. You know, and it wasn't really, that was not the case, that we had all this money. It's just, we invested, you know, Bill and Pat invested into it, you know, and it's like anything you do, any kind of sport you do, I mean, what does it cost to go camping or fishing or boating? It's what you do, and that's what we like to do. So, and that's what we did, you know, 24/7. I mean, we raced a lot, so we wanted to do it comfortably and what was feasible for us to, you know. I remember Kathy Root giving Bill Gunther a hard time one time. They were on a cruise. They went on some cruise, and Kathy, Bill's wife, was with him. And Bill's wife never went to the races, never. She didn't even know what Bill spent on racing, or she didn't know anything about it. And Bill was bitching about, at that time, IMCA tire was $90. And Bill was, they were at a big dinner table, and he was bitching about the tire price. And Kathy looked right at him and said, Bill Gunther, you got a $90,000 rig pulling at the racetrack, and you're worried about a $90 tire? Shut Bill Gunther up right now. Because, you know, they didn't really like it, you know, and I get it because they were trying to keep it a low profile sport where you didn't have
man sport.
And it was a working man's. We all went to work. All of us had jobs. It ain't like that we were, you know, sometime full-time, you know, racers. We all had jobs, and we used all our vacations, all my crew, and, you know, and I never went anywhere if my crew couldn't go. Never. I mean, I've watched him go racing by himself, and I'm like, I always wanted to, if one of my guys couldn't go, we didn't go. We did it as a group. We did it as a you know, we're together, and that's what made it fun. We did it for fun, you know. We weren't trying to make money or anything like that. But
you kind of started to ask about the first
Super Nationals win. Yeah. So take us back to that. Like, what do you remember from?
First of all, it was against Johnny the Jet Saddle.
Well, that's what I was going to...
No.
It's Scott Drake, wasn't it?
Scotty Drake.
Scotty Drake.
Yeah.
So take us back to, like, the qualifying, because it was the same back then where the mods kind of started on Wednesday? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Mods, I think, have always started on Wednesday.
Okay.
As far as I can remember. And I don't remember where I even started, but I think I was like third or fourth row, and the best thing I can tell you is Rick Guston, Jimmy's dad, was running second, and I don't remember exactly who was leading it, but me and Scotty Drake just ran back there the whole time, and I think Rick got into the leader. They got together, took them out, and I'm running second, and I was not going to beat Scotty because that was before they farmed, and last corner, and I started widening my corner out. I was like, the only way I'm going to get by him is get underneath him. And the last lap, he went in there and he slid up just a little bit, just enough to let me in there. And we bumped tires. We didn't take each other out, but it just gave me a foot advantage on him, and I beat him at the line. And of course, he was upset, which I don't blame him. And we're friends, and I'm like, so a month later, we're down in McAllen, Texas, and Scotty's like, come here. And I said, Bud, what did you expect me to do? Super Nationals. My first one. He goes, well, it would have been my first one too. And I said, well, you're younger than me, so maybe I said, he goes, I would have done the same thing.
There it is.
And I'm like, all right, well, you can't be too mad at me. And he goes, but that was a heck of a year for us because we won the Queen contest.
Why don't they have the Queen contest anymore?
So I have a good story about that. So my mom used to run the Queen contest. And
Michelle, come on.
Yeah.
Let's go.
So the last year they did that, I think the girl that won it got up on the stage and started doing the shocker hand signals on the stage, and Kathy did not like that. Shut her down after that.
Okie doke.
So that's the reason why we don't have the Queen contest anymore.
Okay,
because they had the Queen contest, they had the
pit crew
contest. We won that.
Best appearing car. I came out that year with a black car, and I think I was one of the first ones on the bottom of the whole door. We put Logue. And that thing had chrome front bumpers and rear bumpers. Bill Davis was my hero. And that car was just killer. And we talk about a year. It was just, we had a great year anyway. And then to top it off, to win our first Super Nationals was pretty special.
How big was the party that night?
Oh.
He's still recovering.
I don't think I seen the daylight till about Monday or Tuesday. But of course, we had to give our motor away,
Oh yeah.
Before we could start the crew had to pull the motor out, and of course I started partying, but that was a pretty special.
Should have only took them about 15 minutes to have it pulled.
Yeah, it'll take a little longer to pull it out because you got to take all the stuff off of it.
Oh yeah.
Plus you have to, spend a little time upset people, piss them off or whatever.
Do you remember who ended up with it?
I don't, because back then, you could claim the top 10.
Yep.
Top 4 were automatic.
Was it an auction?
Yes.
Okay.
The top 4 were taken out and auctioned off, but you could be claimed back to the 10th place spot because it paid $300 for 10th place or 11th place or 10th place. So if it paid anything above $300, you were claimable.
You were losing something.
And usually it was the top 4, and then there would be, a couple, throughout the top 10 that would lose their motors.
Can you imagine if they did that today?
Now
they only lose one.
And I understood. I trust me. with losing all the motors and everything, IMCA had the right focus on it that keep the price of the engines down. Because otherwise, you're going to have a guy come in and put $10,000 motor in and go out and outclass everybody. So I understood the claim, and it actually worked in our favor a little bit because we built crate motors, and it made us fast because we couldn't, we were always, not always under horsepower, but we didn't have a lot of horsepower. So it was a lot easier setting the car up, driving the car, because you don't have all that horsepower, kind of like what the crate has done to the class now, to where I remember guys that come over and be like, God, they were a friend of mine. They're like, we got 10 grand in our motor and you drive by us every week. I said, because I'm flat on the floor and I can't spin a tire. I said, and you're over there trying to, keep the tire underneath you, and you can't.
They're cooking that $90 biscuit.
Yeah, and then automatically in their mind is this car's going like this, so I need to stand on the gas even harder.
Yep.
So then they spin the tires even more.
Yep.
So it kind of hurt us in a little bit as far as losing motors, but I understood the concept of of the claim, and it worked for a long time. It built that class. It really did. But then as technology comes along, of course, the price of motors, everything, back then we could build a motor for, our Marshalltown motor, Des Moines motor, $1,500, you know, and our Boone motor, it'd be a $2,000 motor. And even if we didn't get claimed on Friday night, we came home and swapped motors anyway and put a different motor in for Boone, because you needed just a little bit more motor at Boone, because you got it was just so tough at Boone. And not only the farming of the racetrack, but it's just you're so much tougher. Like we're Des Moines, you know, I love Des Moines because it's such a big track, and you didn't need a lot of horsepower, but you just needed a lot of momentum. So we used to run a really tall gear down there. Oh, Glenn Woodard. Remember Glenn Woodard?
You bet.
He used to race at Boone Speedway with a 514 gear. And Des Moines, 456.
Wow.
What would he think today?
But at Des Moines, I ran a 486, tall gear. And then Boone, I always ran 529. And Glenn Woodard taught me that. He goes, you don't need, you know, because everybody else is running these deep gears, you know. And Supernatural's an 01, perfect example. Me and Kelly Shyrock had both identical race cars, both Harris cars. We were pitted beside each other. We both had Midwest Motorsports motors. The difference was I had a 529 in, and Kelly had like a 620 or something like that. We were 100 points difference in points in gear, and I couldn't spin a tire, you know, and we would just. I always liked tall gear.
Note that we were in the grandstands that year, and when Dad came out, you know, Kelly Shyrock started on the front row.
Where'd John start?
33rd.
Okay.
I mean, well, but goes to in 2001. There's 428 modifieds there. Dad always never ever made it in on the first night. It seemed like he always had to race
once, I think. Yeah.
You know, at all the years, like it just he'd be in position and get, you know, William Gould took him out one year, or Henry Witt Jr. took him out. You know, like I remember
Henry Witt did. Ronnie Gould never did, but Henry Witt
I
did
get
right
them
off the end of
guys
the track.
Get them guys confused. Dad comes up onto the racetrack when he did that and stands in turn 1 and 2 and is like this. Races are they're under green.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
He just sat up there. Remember that?
Yeah. I made a lot of fans down there in turn 1 and 2 that day. They were actually throwing me beers. I'm like, I'm not done yet, you know, so don't be throwing the beers yet.
But you know, I chose Kelly Shyrock to win that race because he had such a dominating performance, and how many good cars were in there. And then I never knew, you know, back then I didn't know what they were doing for gears and shit like that. But to hear that story today.
Yeah, people would be like, there ain't no way you had 529 in. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, you got the trophy.
But it's just wild.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, just wild how kind of goes to show you how it's kind of what keeps me into racing. Every time we go to a different racetrack, the race is different, the dirt's different, just everything. So to have those two different things as far apart as what they were on gearing and where they were at in their careers at that time, being two of the top drivers in the nation, that says a lot about what they were doing with their own programs, but what other people were doing too, you know.
Well, and you talk about that 01, you know, the 01 deal where you had just won the F Camp, right? And that's when they announced the points deal.
And that back then you could run 2 cars. So we took advantage of it, obviously, because we had our IMCA Supernationals car that we had there for the weekly racing, and then we had another car with a little bit better motor in it because they couldn't claim you. And that's probably why they changed that rule, which I get it. They should run the same car, but we, you know, rules are rules, so we were following them. And I had never won that race. And Ron F. Camp lived 2 blocks from me when I first started racing, and his health was, you know, he was a big part of IMCA. And he used to come down as bad as health as he was, and he'd help me wrench on my car. And, I mean, he'd have to sit down, and then he'd get back up, and he's like, Logue, you know. But he'd be just as hard at me at the racetrack, you know. There'd be times when I was in the stock car, he's like, Craig Jones was going to build me this big motor, you know, and he heard about it, and he goes, you put that motor in there, I'm going to claim it out of you guys, you know. But Ronnie was very special to me.
Yeah.
And I'd never won that race. So I really wanted to win that race. And I don't remember the guy, I think he was from Harlan, and we were just side by side the whole race, and I won it. just barely. And I told Roach, come over to the infield, and he goes, I go, bud, I said, I don't care if we don't make the Super Nationals. We're probably not going to make it. We've had so much success. I don't care. I just won the race that's important to me. We've won the Super Nationals. He goes, well, bud, we're starting 33rd. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, you're dead last. I said, and then I went over and confirmed it with Brett, and Brett goes, I go, you sure? And he goes, trust me. I'm sure we had to go over it and over it and over it because everybody thinking that we're giving you a provisional, which that wouldn't happen. And I'm like, well, I said, I told Roach, I said, let's just go out there and we'll just, beat around. I said, we're not going to go nowhere. We're not going to do anything.
Because of how much talent's in this show.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Jerry Hoffman was on the front row outside of that race, and he come over to me and he goes, Logue, you're not going to win it this year. So, okay, well, I'll wave at you when I drive by you. Just being cocky, and lap 14, I drove by Jerry leading it. He was leading it. 14 laps, which they had several yellows, which helped a bunch, but our car was just so good on the bottom. I mean, it just glued, and everything went our way. Not only luck, but just everything. So here's the funny story about it. So we lap up to the 9th place car, and we're getting down to 10 laps to go, and I'm going, this is a 40-lap feature. We didn't put any fuel in the car. I mean, we had it set up to run a 20-lap, or a qualifier, so we only had 20 gallons in it. And I'm going, 32-gallon cell. I'm like, we're in trouble. We're not going to make weight. Oh. And luckily enough, the infield was muddy, and there was enough mud on the car. I don't know if we would have made, I don't know. But there was mud on the car. Bob Ross was mad at me, and because I kind of went through the mud a little bit,
Kinda?
Not on purpose. Love you, Bob. And he's got his arms up, waving at him, mad at me, and he goes, what are you doing? I go, I don't know, Bob. I just won the Super Nationals from dead last. I never thought that we, he goes, you're taking that car back, and you're going to take all the mud off of it, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, sorry, but I was so excited, and he's like, just take it across the scales. We were like 300 pounds of good, so.
301 pounds.
Well, the other funny story is Gary Luloff. Or Jerry. Is it Jerry? Jerry.
Yeah. Went over to Lottie, just madder than hell. He goes on one of the yellows at the beginning of the first 10 laps, he goes, they put him 2 spots in front, farther up than he should have been. Lottie looks at him, he goes, he lapped you. Do you want to go out there and try it again? He goes,
give her
he
another
lapped
shot.
you, and you're.
Oh, Lottie.
Well, and one really cool thing about that 01, the 01 Super Nationals was, you looked back through the results, and Clint Boyer was in that race too.
Yes, he was.
I think he ended up 4th or something like
third.
that.
He was on the podium. He
Yeah.
was with me. I have a picture of it.
In a Harris car.
Yeah, and he went on to be a big NASCAR driver, and here we are.
Doing a podcast in your shop right now.
Yeah. You don't think I didn't talk about that at school for the next year and a half? I mean, my dad kicked Clint Boyer's ass. Right.
It was right after that. I think he got the break with Richard Childress. And, that was great because he was racing NASCAR tracks out in Nebraska or Kansas, and for him to get that exposure and get that opportunity to go do that. Kids don't get that today. You got to have a checkbook to get into that program. And so Clint did very well for himself, and he always had Harris cars too. He had Harris car, there, and I never ran nothing but a Harris car my whole racing career. I had Harris cars from day one to the last day I raced.
Yeah, and you don't see that a lot, right?
No.
Yeah, it's hard to do.
And through my career, when we were winning a lot of races, Boyd Antel used to own Haps in Ames. He was a dealer for Shaw. He brought a car to my shop, had it sitting in my shop, everything but a motor in it. And he says, you guys just take it. You can have it.
Really?
And I said, nope, I won't do that. I said, I'm loyal to Bob Harris. Bob Harris got me to where I'm at, winning races, and I believe in his product. I believed in Bob Harris's everything that he did, and I'm not changing that. Just because we got some wins now, somebody wants to come in and help you, which is great, and Bob helped us a little bit, but, we didn't expect help. We just, we'll pay for our own program. We'll do our own deal. We just want the support behind you. And Bob was always just, back then we didn't have a lot of cell phones, but, if I ever had questions or problems or whatever, Bob was always there to help us. And I would never forget that. Yeah. That's just the way Bob Harris was.
That's awesome.
Yes. That's what made him successful. And, he's had the best modifieds still does, in my opinion. Harris cars are great. Mm-hmm. Jonathan's got a Rage. Justin's a great guy. Jonathan had a lot of success with the Rage cars, but my era time was the Harris car.
Well, and that was going into that little Harris Rage. I mean, obviously my dad bought Harris Auto Racing, and we've built every race car that I've raced, from ground up or straight tubes or whatever. We won our first Super Nationals title in an IMCA Harris Sport Mod, and like when I went to my dad to ask him about, maybe we should try something different, it was almost like I ripped part of his heart off, because
it was a tough decision for me.
Well, sure.
But we just had to,
we had to do something different.
We had to try something different.
Yeah, and we went right to
my
Kyle
heart's
Brown.
Still in a Harris car. Mm-hmm. When I watch a Harris car win still today, that's because that's what I've been around my whole life.
It's a piece of you,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And honestly, for me, I worked for Kyle Brown after he bought it from Dad, and to go out there that day, and I don't think a lot of people do this either. We sat down with Kyle one-on-one and talked about it, and walked out of there as I was scared, not scared, but just nervous that it was going to ruin our friendship. And it worked out for both parties, and
a lot of people do it now. They won't even go talk to somebody. But we went and sit down and we talked to Kyle, and we explained it to him that it's not good for us and it's not good for him because we're not making him look good, and we just need to change it up, and nothing against what they were doing or whatever. It's just we needed something different, and we tried to do it very professionally as far as talking to Kyle, and Kyle was understood, and me and Kyle are still friends today. So is Jonathan, and that's part of racing. But you try to do it on the best level you can, to where you don't, I don't like burning bridges with, with people, and
mm-hmm.
But sometimes you got to change.
It's just kind of how it goes, Right. Mark Elliott made this comment to me one time that, Harris Auto Racing is one of the longest chassis companies that have been doing it for as long as they've been doing it. So at some point or another, a lot of these drivers that are racing have been in a Harris car or Terminator car, because Harris bought a Terminator out in 2009, correct? So they leave, and then they come back.
Yeah.
And then they either retire there, or, it's almost like Harris built this nostalgic, we're the company, and it's a really cool thing. And then now there's a bunch of these other little companies that are around that are they're great too. It's just like Dad said earlier, you had Dirtworks, you had Pro Chassis way back in the day, and Harris basically were like the three main builders, for that kind of mm-hmm. stuff. And that's just not the case anymore. Dirtworks isn't around no more. Pro, I know they don't do anything, or for who knows how long, but Harris is still around kicking and putting out winning race cars.
Oh, absolutely. And Kyle's done a great job with it. I mean, he had a tough, when he jumped in there, he was really young, and it's not an easy business. It's a tough business dealing with customers, and just, it's a big deal. And now he's, they're winning national championships with the cars. They're winning super nationals like Harris has continued to do since, the 80s. Mm-hmm. They're still, he just won the super nationals, a couple years ago with Thornton and Tom Berry, and Tom Berry won a national championship, and then the kid from Arizona won the national championship. Chaz Baca. I think Chaz working there for Kyle now, so that's good, So I mean, Kyle's worked really hard to turn his program around, and really, at first it took him a while because they'd changed the car up, designed it, and that's part of the growing pain. But at the end of the result, they got her going.
Right.
So there's a lot of good cars.
Yeah, they don't give those national titles away.
No,
No, they do not.
They do not.
And the late models you ran, they were Harris cars too?
The first one that I had was a Harris car, yes. It was built, because when Bob started, he started in Esterville back in the 80s, Well, Bob Shyrock drove one of Bob's. That was a Harris car.
Wow.
Yeah, Kelly's dad. And I have one of the first cars out back that Bob built back in, I think it was 82 or 83 for Mike Smith.
Yep.
It was one of the first late models he built, and I have the car sitting out back.
Pristine still.
Yeah.
Awesome. Seriously, it's
But
cool.
yeah, my first year, Bill went down to this auction down in Des Moines when they used to have the auction down there, and bought this car at the auction for like $7,000 or something, So we put a motor in it. Well, of course, we're going to Des Moines. That's where I love to go, and we won the first night out in that car. And I'd never drove a car with a quick change in it, and it's got a sound to it, And they had a spec motor back then, and I kept thinking somebody was on my butt because I could hear this howling, and it was the quick change. And we won the first night out. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Well, and the before I was thought of, when he was working for Bob and stuff, he had got hooked up with Willie Kraft and the late model stuff, and I was going to bring that up earlier, but we just kind of went off onto a whole new thing.
Sure.
Well, then he kind of had to.
Bob back in the day when he was building late models, I mean, he had the best late model out there. I mean, Willie Kraft a lot of people don't know Willie Kraft, but he'd be like Scott Bloomquist today. Well, maybe not Scott, but Billy and Willie were good friends, and they were just as competitive against each other, and he did some travel. He was out of Lakefield, Minnesota, and he did a lot of travel, and I got to go with Willie out to Pinsboro, where they just rebuilt that track.
Yep.
So this would have been 1987, before he was born. And I got to go out there with Willie Kraft, and we went to this Pinsboro, and there's no lights, there's no grandstands, and there's this big oval with a bridge in each corner, like there is today, after they rebuilt this thing. And it paid $50,000 to win.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was Willie's pit guy. And on the same night, so they race there during the day, and then they go over to, I think it was Parkersburg, Virginia.
Yeah,
West
Virginia. Yeah.
Big track, big 5/8 track. Well, Willie was driving for Ray Callahan at the time, so he had two cars. So we went over there and raced that night, and that was a makeup show from the week before. And if you win both shows, the Parkersburg paid $40,000 to win. Donnie Moran won it. Willie ran third. So Willie was right in there in the hunt, always with them. We go back to Pinsboro on Sunday. Moran wins that one, $50,000 to win. $90,000, plus he got a truck and a trailer as a bonus.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, when I found out Dad knew who Donnie Moran was and was around him when he was racing, I'm like, I know you're my dad, but that's like hero shit. Like that's cool as shit,
And those guys, Billy and Bloomquist, not so much. He was always kind of off on his own deal. But, like Moran and a lot of them guys traveled together just like we did back in our days, and got along and helped each other out. And you talk about an experience of going out there at my age, and we get home and Willie's like, God, he blew up at Pinsboro. He's like, I'm just going to hire you full time. And I just started racing. This is my second year of racing. I'm like, well, here's the deal. Somebody's going to get born here.
So he had been thought of.
Oh, he was thought of, all right. So he was on his way, and I'm like, well, if I didn't have a kid on the way, I would probably take you up on that, Willie, and go do it for a couple of years just to, travel around and experience it.
Sure.
So it was an experience, and it was to do something like that at that. It'd be like going and racing with with Ricky Thornton and all them guys today. I mean,
Right.
And that's what's really cool. Now, the only connection I really got is Strickler did us a little bit, but Todd Cooney and Ryan Gusson doing that. I went down last year to Volusia. I go every year, and I got to hang out with Todd and me and Todd always raced against each other, and we kind of always had a little bit of a rival, between us. They were Des Moines, we were Boone, and late models, and I got to hang out with those guys, and I tell you what, I had an absolute blast. And we're leaving Friday for Florida again, and I can't wait to see Todd and Ryan and the bunch down there again in Volusia and hang out with them, and
Yeah.
Well, he got to race with Scott Bloomquist too one time in a CJ Rayburn car.
Yeah.
Won a D main, right?
Yeah, down at Volusia. B main.
Or B main.
Yeah, no, it was Bloomquist was in it, and so was Bob Pierce. I remember watching Bobby run around. He was about this tall.
Well, he wins this.
He's not much taller than that now.
No shit. Yeah, no shit.
That's true.
But the trophy girl, was that the same place, or was that the
No.
picture that you still have?
That was Fort Smith, Arkansas. Yeah, that was the modified days. Yeah.
See? That's why he's around.
But when I went down and raced Volusia in the late models, and we had an IMCA car, so we had no business going there. We pull in, here's Billy Moyer, got 2 semis, one for tires, one for 2 cars. Jeez. We got a little, our truck and trailer, and we got 4 tires on the shelf.
Now, Denny,
But we had fun.
Yeah.
Denny Fuller was working for Billy Moyer at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe Volusia is not the right spot, but wasn't it 8 or 10 years ago, Mike Van Genderen went down there with an IMCA car, started last, and I think he won it.
That was
Yeah.
East Bay.
East Bay. Okay.
East Bay,
Okay.
yeah.
East
Yeah.
Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No longer venue there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's gone too.
But the whole late model thing, I don't think a lot of people knew that, Dad had raced a late model for just a short time there.
I think we did it 5 years.
Almost won a Super Nationals.
Yeah, the last race,
remember
the
this.
very last race of my career in the late model, I'm leading the Super Nationals with 15 to go. And I'm thinking, we got a pretty good car. We got a chance. This would be great way to end my career in the late models. And broke the fuel pump belt. Or, it drives everything. So he lost power steering and pulled in. But we had to make a decision. 2 cars is a lot of work, and we're already doing the modified thing, and so this was like 98 or 99 or whatever, and I'm like, I really want to just focus on the modified and be the best modified out there driver that I can be, and trying to drive both cars is not working. And I had the opportunity to go on the road and do some full-time late model racing if I wanted to, but I didn't want to do that. I was I had a child, and I had my roots here in Boone, and I did racing for fun of it. I didn't want to do it for a living. Those guys, they race 11 months out of the year, 12, damn near 12 months out of the year now. And back then they even did too, because he started in Volusia in February, and he pretty much ended in November. And then that's like, man, I don't want to be on the road all the time. I don't want to be gone. So that's why we hung up the late model and just focused on the modified, just have fun.
So before we jump out of the late model stuff, I got to ask you, what was your best memory from the late model? Was it that first night at Des Moines?
Yeah.
Really?
To go down there the first night in it and to win, that was pretty wild.
Did you run the Harris class, the Hawkeye Challenge in a late model?
No.
Never did. Okay.
Just in the modified.
Must have been another 69.
I did it in a stock car, because it came to Boone when I was in a stock car.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Well, then, Jonathan ended up, I think, you picked up a Hawkeye Challenge, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I think the first or second year they had it.
Right. Yeah, because Watson won one.
And then you guys keep scoring me in the absolute bullshit spot the last 3 years, because I've always been right there in the hunt. And then you guys screw me on the lap thing. But that's a different subject.
Well, if we stop having red flags,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
But
No shit.
do you want to close this one out, and then we still have other stuff to talk about? But
Yeah, I think Probably be a good spot.
Okay,
We
perfect.
Yeah.
So we're going to make this one a two-parter. Jonathan's got to go on vacation, so we're going to close this one out. When we come back, I want to talk, when we go into the next one, I want to talk about your transition into owning the business and kind of some of things like that. And I got to work for John actually in high school too, so we can talk about that a little bit. But
must have went okay. You're still sitting next to him.
yeah, right, yeah. But we appreciate you guys watching episode. Is this 14? Yeah, 14. Episode 14. When we come back, we'll have 15. But you've been watching Watermelons and Wood Chips.